Everybody ready? I'd say we're ready to go.
All right.
Can you start by saying and spelling your first and last name and position?
My name's Sharon Stariti, and that's Sharon, Steriti, and I work with the Washington Department of Natural Resources, and for this fire incident, I am the public information officer, one of the public information officers.
So to start off, just tell us the latest about this fire.
So the latest on this fire, as you may know, on Saturday, it was about 156 acres. It was had a line around it. It was looking really good. And as you may also know, we had a red flag warning on Sunday. And the fire, unfortunately, got across the line during the evening. And on Sunday morning, it was discovered that it was burning over the line. And then the east winds and weather came in and kind of changed the story.
What's the acreage at right now?
Acreage is at 1,565 acres.
Outhouses? Anything?
Nope, just no buildings have been damaged. Nobody's been hurt. And those are two big winds right there.
Speaking of the winds, of course, gusts were up to 25, 30 miles per hour over the weekend with that red flag warning. You guys weren't able to fly, but we noticed the helicopter a couple different times. You were able to attack by air today, correct?
Correct, yes. I like you, I saw one over there. So far, I don't have any intel if they're able to drop anything yet, but as you can see, it's pretty smoky back there, but they must have some good visuals, so they called in the helicopters.
And then how did firefighters prepare for this east wind? You guys get, pre-ahead weather reports. You guys stage extra firefighters, call in extra resources, talking about how you prepared for this east wind.
Well, preparing was you can do spot weather, so you can follow the weather as it's happening during the day. And on Saturday, they were well prepared. They were out on the line all day. They had night patrol, making sure that things stayed where they were. On Saturday, the fire was looking really good. They felt really promising about the conditions. And then on Sunday, that red flag warning and those winds, the fire's up on a ridge top, and the winds just came in and just took it. And as you've learned in recent reports, there's several fires that have started over the weekend with these winds.
About resources in the state of Washington. How are they? Are you guys able to get more throughout the state, or are you calling from out of state at this point?
Right now we're transitioning to a Type 1 incident management team, ODF, Oregon Department of Forestry. Team 2 is coming in this evening and taking over command at 7 o'clock tonight. For other resources, I can't speak to that. I know there's so much going on. It's the end of fire season. And I do know that resources are stretched a little thin.
What are the conditions like out there today? Obviously, we're not noticing the winds, but it can be a little different up higher in the mountains.
I haven't reports of that yet. We'll probably get reports of that later this afternoon.
As far as the shrinking of the line, evacuation, can you respond to any of that?
I think I'll let the sheriff respond to that, yeah.
So what's the strategy now that the containment line has been blown over? What does containment look like, and what's the next step for firefighters?
That's what I'll find out later, more information later this afternoon. Yesterday there was so much smoke up there and fire activity. They weren't really able to get good eyes on it, and that's what they're doing today to see what next steps are as they move forward into tomorrow.
What we were told last week, it started on like a 10-year-old clear-cut area. What are the fuels that it's burning now? Is it more mature timber?
It's mostly it's a mix. It's on a hillside and it's burned down into a drainage, so it has mixed mature timber, reprod, and just little open fields in some places.
So it's got timber and brush kind of is what it's burning?
Yeah.
What are the prospects for growth? Do you expect it to grow like it did yesterday at the day?
I can't speak to that right now because, as the weather is changing, but what I can say is that we're not going to be getting those winds that we got over the weekend. So the conditions and weather are looking pretty good to make some really good advances in getting this fire under control.
And having a fire season this active late into the year, is this normal?
No, this is not normal. I think this is one of the driest summers we've had on record. I don't think we've had any measurable precip since the end of June, which was, as you know, like our wettest June on record, I believe. So
say it's not normal. It's not normal to have a fire this late in October.
no, it's not.
And then it looks like there's a lot more resources here today. Who's
Right now we have some county structure protection has shown up. They're out there in some of the evacuation areas patrolling and being ready should something happen. But as I mentioned, no buildings have been burned or threatened. And we've got, as I mentioned, ODF has come down from Oregon, and there's people coming in constantly through the day, so I can't speak to the numbers or exactly who is here, but a lot of resources are coming in to help put this fire out.
When you know that if the fire is lightning caused, it's lightning caused, but there were no thunderstorms in the area last weekend. It's human caused. Do you have an idea what that might mean, or are you still looking into what?
It's still under investigation.
What changes, if anything, with ODF now in the incident command?
So they bring a bigger team coming into this, and it's a more complex fire. The previous team was a Type 3 team, which is a smaller, was like 156 acres. So that's kind of a small team, ad hoc team. That means members of DNR, usually have other jobs during the day, came together to help coordinate in putting this fire out. Where the ODF team, a Type 1 team, is more organized, bigger structure, and they come into more complex incidents like we have right now with the evacuation levels, the urban interface with the, urban interface with the woods.
You mentioned some of the other fires that had sparked with this wind. Is there any indication that any of those other ones in the area may have sparked from this?
No, these ones are right here. When I alluded to other fire starts happening, there have been reports of other fire starts happening in the Cascade region. So between like here and Seattle, in the Cascades, have been reported new fires. We good? Thank you.
Thanks so much.
He's on the phone.
Oh, he's on the phone.
He's not that tall.
He's taller than I am. I'll readjust it. That's about perfect. There we go.
That was good. Everybody ready? First, last name, title.
Okay, my name's Chris. That's C-H-R-I-S, Skidmore, S-K-I-D-M-O-R-E. I'm a sergeant with the Clark County Sheriff's Office and the Public Information Officer for the Sheriff's Office.
So can you talk about the opening and shrinking, or?
Yeah, so we've worked with, in conjunction with CRESA, our Clark Regional Emergency Services Agency, and the emergency management team there. They work with information from the IC, from the fire from the on-scene fire command, and then they kind of come up with the plan based on fire behavior, and then they work with some of the GIS mapping and what makes sense. And so when they had a chance to look at the fire last night and see that it was a little bit smaller than the initial, you probably saw some reports of up to 2,000 acres. They realized it was a little bit smaller. They wanted to try to get those back down. So we were able to kind of made sense to move those evacuation zones back down, and then to kind of allow some of those people that were on the edges of those affected areas to be able to continue with their daily lives.
Go ahead.
Can you talk about the expansion of the zone yesterday, for kind of several iterations of it expanding? Was that sort of?
Yeah, and that's just intel driven, based on what information, again, that the emergency management team gets from the incident commanders here. And so some of the stuff that they had going on was like, hey, we've got some pretty active fire behavior. We have some concerns about this possibly. So they wanted to err on the side of, hey, let's make sure as many people as we can, right? We'd rather err on that side than make it too small and not be able to get people out. So they started with that first ring, and then they tried to make it a little bit more shaped based on what they had intel for the fire behavior. And then from that point, that's where CRESA initiated some reverse 911 calls, the Everbridge notifications, and then also doing the wireless emergency alerts and sending those out. So,
Do you have an idea about how many homes or number of people were forced to evacuate in the last 24 hours?
yeah, you're forced to evacuate. We went and we had our Clark County partners with the Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue, knocked on about 600 doors last night. I know they made notifications. It was up posted on CRESA's website. I can't remember the exact number. Somewhere in the neighborhood of like 20,000 people were notified. And it's not so much forced evacuations. We tell them, hey, now we think is a time to go, but there were people that elected to stay. And so if they wanted to stay, they just kind of logged some of those addresses in some of those areas and told them we may not be able to provide emergency services if you guys choose to stay at some point. And so people took their own risk. So they didn't force anybody to go out, but there was somewhere, I think, like I said, about 20,000 people contacted by CRESA. we contacted at least 600 people in the kind of closer areas to the fire lines, and then they got to make a decision. We gave them the information, and they get to make the decisions on that.
So as of this afternoon, what areas are under level 3?
So without looking at the map in front of me, they brought a lot of it back. Some of the more concerning areas were off of Rawson Road, where it becomes L1400 Road. There were some homes at the end of there that still are in the red. And then the areas off of 292nd and Lessard are the other areas. So if you go up Lessard, there's Boulder Creek and Winters and Livingston Mountain. And some of those areas are still kind of in that red area. So initially we had closed a bunch of roads yesterday afternoon and then into last night. And then at this time, based on that new updated evacuation zones, we've opened up a bunch of stuff. So 53rd at Northeast 53rd Street at State Route 500 has been opened up, and then you can get all the way through that to 292nd Avenue and then down to Blair. Washougal River Road, Blair Road up to State Route 500 has all been opened back up. We still have closures in place from the top of the fire up near the Rock Creek Campground off the L1000 road, off the L1400 road off of Run is still closed, getting in there, and then the areas off of Lessard Road and 292nd and Winters and all those up there are still closed down.
Can you describe, because you've been in there, we haven't really, what would you, if we were to drive in there, what would we be seeing?
There's just a lot of smoke in a lot of those areas. Right now we do have deputies dedicated to those areas to set the road closure areas and patrolling in that areas. We've seen some kind of possible misinformation on social media talking about, rampant looting and that kind of stuff. That's just not true. We've got a couple commanders, a couple sergeants, and 13 deputies that are up working in that area right now to try to keep people's properties secure. We obviously take that very seriously. But right now it's slowed down definitely today from yesterday. So there's minimal traffic coming in and out of those areas. Some people starting to return to those areas that the evacuation zone was lifted from. But really it's just pretty smoky up in a lot of those spots.
You guys, the Larch Mountain Correction Center was evacuated? Part of that?
No, so Larch Mountain Correction Center is all ran and maintained by Washington Department of Corrections. They have their own emergency action plan that they executed, and that involved bringing buses in and getting all the inmates loaded up and taking them up to someplace up in Olympia. And so Washington Department of Corrections handled that all last night.
Initially too, there were concerns about people, kind of crowding the roads or maybe going to look at the fire or even flying drones over the fire. Has that still been a problem?
Initially, when the fire first started last week, there was a problem with the drones. That's why the FAA, they got the Incident Command seeked a temporary flight restriction from the FAA and got it granted, just so we could try to get some of the drones, because some of the initial aerial firefighting efforts seem to be hampered by that. So a lot of looky-loos, people going up that didn't have any business being up there the first. We didn't see so much of that yesterday and today, not so much. So I think people have gotten the message to stay out unless they really need to be in there.
I've heard some of those reverse 911 calls come in as spam or blocked by phone. Is that something you guys are looking into?
Yeah, I know that's something Cressa had looked into. I guess the number that came in for doing the initial notifications showed as an out of area, and there was some thoughts that it might be spam. So we tried to put out updates on the website and tell people, like, hey, if it's not coming from the sheriff's office or from Cressa, that's where your reputable information is going to come from. But I don't know what they're looking into going forward with that. But yeah, I do know that there was some out of area codes for some of those calls with the system they used. Any other questions?
I have one more.
Yep.
So right now, just looking towards the fire, it's not like yesterday where you can see big plumes of smoke. It doesn't look like it's moving as fast. So people who are still in any level of evacuation zone, I'm thinking they're wondering, why is this still in effect? I don't see big smoke. Can you explain why the evacuation zone?
Yeah, I mean, that's totally for the fire folks to really talk about. I can tell you that we work in conjunction with them. If you're in one of the level 3 evacuations, again, there's people that have made a decision that they think that it's not safe to be there. So I would just say, hey, comply with whatever level that you're in is the best recommendation that we can give you. We've worked really hard. I'll give a good shout out to our partners with Department of Public Works to move around and close signs, and as those have changed, to move signs back and try to allow people the best access into those areas so they can do what they need to do.
Cool.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, guys.
As painless as can be.
Hi. Hey, John. Yeah, you said county event center. Are you talking like the Clark County one way back over off of